What's happening? This is Ryan Dawkins, and you're tuning in to The LOFT.
Have brought out the best of me. I know you have an amazingly busy schedule now, right? So you started J-Spot a little bit ago, right?
About 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so why I wanted to have you on this podcast, because I've obviously seen your success and how well you've been doing. And I'm just like, I know the med spa, like the aesthetic world, I'm not too familiar with because I'm a guy, but I would love to learn more about it because I know that, like, especially for women, I know beauty standards is a thing, and like looking a certain way or feeling a certain way. So I wanted to get into that and just kind of learn more about like your background, your story, and like why you started to really go deep into this. And because I know you've been very, acclimated and successful so far. So
yeah. So I was in plastic surgery first. So I was in the OR for the first half of my career. I was doing aesthetic medicine and wellness medicine as well, but I kind of split my time, and then I got recruited to just do aesthetic medicine. I did that for about 3 years, and then I kind of hit the ceiling in my career where I was like, okay, I either jump or I don't. And that's when I created the J-Spot.
Yeah.
People always be like, oh, why do you do this? Like, you went to school for medicine, right? Like, this is so superficial. And for me, it's not. I saw so many people that like didn't feel good about themselves, and they could be the healthiest on the inside. But if they don't feel good about themselves on the outside, it doesn't matter how healthy they are on the inside. But aside from that, like also like the way our industry is moving is towards like longevity and regenerative medicine. And I think that's the future of medicine. We're moving away from Western medicine, and we're going more towards functional medicine. So that's kind of even why I brought the juice bar and cafe, because I kind of wanted to make it this whole functional, hospitality driven, community driven wellness practice.
Yeah, I think that's a really underrated like quality of having a med spa, right? Like having that hospitality aspect to it, because you want people feeling comfortable to come in there. You kind of make it like a safe space, right?
Yeah.
I know we did our one of our run clubs, and we stopped there to grab the juices and stuff.
Yeah.
And I noticed you already had people in there. It was like a hangout on this, and people, and it was awesome.
Yeah, people come and they stay all day. Like there's people that are there from when we open to when we close. And it's great because it creates a different demographic with the cafe there. So for instance, we have these group of guys that are in their 80s that come into the cafe, not knowing there was a med spa in the back. And now those guys are getting facials, right? So like it's really cool because it brings in a whole different demographic. I also think like the barrier to entry, it's a little more welcoming, right? Like it's not as intimidating especially for men, right? To just walk into like a med spa, it's intimidating for guys to do that. So with the cafe in the front, they're like, okay, at least I have this. It's like a stepping ground.
Of course. Yeah. I love that. And so obviously, it's funny that you kind of jump. You said I had to make this jump, right? I feel like a lot of people can relate to that, because you get to a point where I'm sure you felt like you plateaued almost, right? And so what ultimately was like the catalyst to be like, I'm just gonna start my own spot? What really led to that?
So I think so many of us, we work in careers where we know what we're doing. It's comfortable. We have a great quality of life, but it's not like fulfilling. And that for me is where I was getting to this point where I was like, I have so many ideas. I have so many things that I want to do. And I know how I can enhance something to make it better than what I'm doing now. But I can't do that if I stay here. And it was hard for me. Like, I was making good money. I had a great schedule. I was going to England on the weekends. I was just like living my best life. And when I told people I wanted to make the jump, they kind of were like, why? Like, are you sure? Like, your quality of life is so good. Like, why would you do that? And trust me, like, I'm working now more than I've ever worked in my life. And I'm not taking trips to London on the weekends. But I had this dream since I was a little girl. Like, I always wanted to do it. And I think the difference between somebody who's an entrepreneur and not an entrepreneur is people who are willing to take the risk, right?
Absolutely.
There's a lot of risk.
Right.
So I kind of just reached this point where I was like, I'm unfulfilled. And I was like, if I don't jump now, then I'm only getting older. I'm losing energy. I might end up having a family. Who knows, right? If I had children, I wouldn't even be able to take care of them at this point, right?
Of course, yeah.
Barely taking care of myself. So like for me, it was like, this is the time. Like I have to do it now. I'm not taking care of anything but myself right now. So this is the time I have to take this big risk.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so, you know, like you mentioned before, like, you know, taking those trips all the time and that quality of life, do you find that sacrifice, what do you find, let me ask you this. Where do you find the enjoyment in the sacrifice? Because I understand, like you kind of said, like your lifestyle changed and no more London on the weekends. Like, where are you finding the pleasure in the sacrifice?
When I see people love it. To me, that's when it makes me happy. When somebody comes in and they say, I've never seen anything like this, or like, I love coming there. It makes me feel so relaxed. It's my escape. We have a patient who comes in and sits in the lounge. She puts her phone away. She just sits there and she just stares at the lounge. And she tells me it's her escape for the week. So when I see people who love it and almost it feels like their home is their third space, that's when I'm like, okay, London on the weekends can wait.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's like it's like a bigger sacrifice. It's a bigger mission, right?
Yeah.
And so obviously we jumped to one extreme to the other. Like now you own a med spa. Like people were like, how the hell did you even get there? So like when it comes to like your upbringing, so you went to, I imagine you did a ton of school. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in North Jersey outside of Manhattan. And then I went to the University of Delaware for undergrad. I studied biochemistry there. I always was pre-med. Like I thought I was going to be a doctor, and I'm a PA. I don't know if you knew that, but I then was, it's like a weird story. I was born with missing teeth. This is like a tangent, but I was born with missing teeth. When I was getting dental surgery, the dentist said to me, he was like, do not be a doctor. And I was like, why? He was like, medicine's changing. Things are changing. Either be a dentist or a PA. And that's kind of when I switched gears. And then I decided to go to PA school, which essentially is what brought me to Philadelphia. Okay. So I went to Jefferson for PA school. And then I actually moved back to New York to work in surgery in New York City. And
so I'm curious about the medicine part. So he said medicine's changing. How so?
Well, we used to be like a country that just treats disease. Now we're trying to prevent disease. So there's all these companies coming out with like, you could get a full body MRI. A lot of places are doing like longevity medicine, which we're starting to do as well, where, you know, things like NAD, which they're doing a study at Harvard with NAD and yeast, where they're showing that yeast that get NAD live longer, right? So we're trying to like live longer and prevent disease. First, old medicine was like, you have high blood pressure, let's just give you lisinopril or like a you know, ACE inhibitor, right? So
that makes a lot of sense. So when it comes to the place itself, right, J-Spot, treating with new medicine. So what are some of the treatments you have at J-Spot for people who may not know? If they're, you know, if people are like, oh, I want to live longer, I want to prevent this, I want to prevent that. What are some of the medicines that you have, or some of the treatments you have that you've really like put a lot of effort into and that you're really evolving?
Yeah, so I think NAD is a huge one. I don't think a lot of people know we have it. It's a coenzyme in cellular metabolism. It's really great for creating ATP in the body, which is energy. It fuels everything that we do. But as we age, those stores of NAD go down. So now we're supplementing with it in IVs or IM shots. We're also bringing in hormone replacement therapy, which is a very hot topic right now, especially for perimenopausal women. You know, women who struggled going through menopause, they now can get hormone replacement therapy and their quality of life is substantially increased. So that's a treatment I don't think people know that we have. And aside from that, I mean, this is not longevity medicine, but we have a ton of male treatments. So we have a gentleman's facial. We do a ton of like GLP-1s and things like that. So there's a lot more beyond just like Botox. Like people are like, oh, you did Botox. There's a lot more. If I did Botox all day, I would literally be like, I can't do this anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So we have a lot of treatments.
I love that. Yeah, I might have to pop in and get one of those facials you're talking about.
Yeah, you have to.
I feel like it's low key something that people don't talk about. Is like, obviously there's a lot of female treatments, but the male treatment too. Like, I remember me and my girl went and got like pedicures. It was like after like a long weekend of like weddings. Yeah. And I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, like, I think it's less taboo for men now. Like they're coming in and they want to like take care of themselves. We also get a ton of people now that everyone's like Zoom and like they're seeing themselves more. We get a ton of like finance bros that are like, you know, presenting on Zoom or doing things where they're on the stage, and they're like, well, I don't want to look old.
Right,
or they're like,
yeah.
oh, my girlfriend or my wife looks so young and then I look old. Like, we need to do something about this,
You're like,
right?
yeah.
So like more and more men are coming in.
Okay, I love that. Well, let's make it hot to be hot in 2026, right?
Yeah.
So obviously, amazing career. We'll get more into. I definitely want to dive into the female beauty aspect of things. I think a lot of women need to hear that, especially coming from you. I know you've done a lot of events. I know you did some wedding events. You've done magazine events. You've done a lot. So I'm curious on your opinion on that. But I want to start at home first. And so like your upbringing and then how you were raised. So like you said, you were kind of raised outside of Manhattan, right?
Yeah.
What was your family dynamic, and like, how did that ultimately lead to like your passion and drive?
Yeah. So I grew up in an Italian family in North Jersey. None of my family was in medicine. So to this day, I don't even think my dad knows my major. Like, he doesn't even know. He's always like, can you take a blood pressure? I'm like, okay, yes, obviously.
Right.
But I grew up in North Jersey. None of my family did any of this. It was kind of just an interest of mine. I always was into science. I loved bio. I loved learning about the human body and anatomy. So for me, I'm kind of like a science geek in a way. But I also was artsy growing up. So I danced my whole life. So I kind of feel like that's why I got into like the aesthetic side of medicine, because it kind of allowed me to use my science brain, but still be artsy.
Yeah.
Even when I was in plastics, when you're suturing something, you make it pretty in plastics versus like if you're in ortho, you sew it up and you get it closed and it kind of looks like, what?
Yeah,
and you're like,
yep.
Whatever, sounds good. Their knee's fine. Right.
Yeah.
So for me, like, I think it was like my dance background that allowed me to get into this.
Oh, wow.
If that makes sense.
So you have a background in dance as well.
I danced my whole life.
Wow.
Yeah, into college.
Wow. Okay. So you
Yeah.
literally danced your way into college. And at the UL. And so obviously, you still obviously now you're really busy so much, but like you don't really do that much, do you? Is that like a?
Do I dance now?
Yeah.
No, I also don't think my body moves the same way.
Right. Yeah.
But I would love to bring it back. There was an opening video that the J Spot made that a ballet from the Philadelphia Ballet, a ballerina, sorry.
Yeah.
From the Philadelphia Ballet performed through the stages of construction of the J Spot, and that was kind of me bringing all my worlds together.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
it
really
seems like you
cool.
have a very creative outlook on your business, and where do you find that inspiration comes from? Where do you find that, like, just the technical ability to come up with something like that? Is there stuff in your life that kind of inspires you for that?
Yeah, I mean, it has to, I go back to like performing. I performed my whole life. I put dances together. I produced dances. I was like the choreographer for dance performances. So for me, like, I need a creative outlet. Like, I can't do where I go to work every single day and we're treating with Botox and filler. Like, for me, it makes work more fun. Like, and I like creating the community through creativity, right? So like having your run club, or yesterday we had like a mental health podcast that came with like these girls that did a walk, right? And they met up. Like, those things are fun for me.
Right.
And then that's also why we had the fitness classes as well, because I felt like dance was like a physical activity for me.
Yeah.
I like to make it all encompassing, like health wise, right? Because like, as much as like I want superficial beauty for people and people to feel good about themselves and people to love what they see when they look in the mirror, I don't want to be like, oh, we're just going to like do Botox and work on your skin. Like, I want people to be like, oh, we're working on our mental health here too. Oh yeah, we're working out too.
Yeah.
Oh, we're meeting people. I met somebody at the J Spot. I made a new friend at the J Spot. Like, for me, it's a special place for people, and that's why I try to make it creative and fun.
Yeah, that's important. And
so
and that all kind of bleeds into people come into these places, they want the Botox for a reason, right? They feel like they need it. And so I feel like that creating that community environment is really important to, like, just so somebody feels comfortable being in there. And so is that something you've ever struggled with? Have you ever I have a twin sister, and I can only imagine what the female brain goes through. Yeah. But is there anything you've ever struggled with in regards to that?
Sure. I mean, like, I think any girl would be lying if they said they never had insecurities. I grew up, I'm from an Italian family. I had these deep infraorbital hollows, which is basically like a tear trough under my eye. And I remember being like, oh my God, when I get $1 to my name, I'm going to fix this. Right. And I think we hyperfixate on things like that as women. You know, it's so highly critical. And even with like the filters and stuff that social media has brought around.
The
like
Facetune.
yeah. Or even like, you know, when you go in Instagram, you do a story and every girl's like, put the Paris filter on, right? Like put the Paris, it makes everything smoother, right? We have such high expectations for what we're supposed to look like. You know, for men, it's more socially accepted to be a little rugged, to have little contour abnormalities. That's normal. For women, it's not, right? And I think, you know, social media also has really changed things. But I've had my own things, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't. Do I want to age? Absolutely not. Like, I want to look young forever. But at the same time, I've never been a person that's been into like big lips or like massive cheeks. Like I want to I always say to patients, like, we're trying to make you look airbrushed. We're not trying to make you look different. Right.
That's fair.
Because I don't want anyone to look different. You know, how many people come in and say to me like, oh, I want to look like Bella Hadid. And I'm like, well, you're not Bella Hadid. You know, you're you, and you should want to look like you, just maybe a little enhanced, or maybe like 3 years ago you know, like exactly. That's it.
Yeah. That's important. I think, because like I said, I noticed just from like even a guy's point of view, right? Like I do a lot of like, you know, with DJing and social media and stuff like that. Like you see that everyone wants to look a certain way, and I think a lot of times the way the world works now is that everyone wants you to be like this person or that person. I think the one thing that even like for me on a personal level, I've learned like sometimes it's important to just understand. It's funny, my grandpa. So my aunt Byrne, right? So she coaches Holy Family basketball, girls D2, and they went to the national tournament, and they were in the Elite Eight. And after they won the championship for their region, they all went to the hotel room, and my mom filmed this video, and I'm so happy she did. But it was my grandpa. He was really drunk, and he's talking to the team, and it was like, listen, like I understand, like, you know, when you're in a because it's their first time making that far, right? So the point being is that he said to them, he's like, you know, everyone always has the thing where like they're looking at the other girls in layup lines. You're looking at the other team. You always say, no, look at us. Why not look at us?
Yeah.
I think a lot of times people struggle with looking within and understanding that like if they just put a little bit more into themselves, how much they'd be able to do. And I feel like where this translates is that with you taking that risk to do J-Spot, you were just like, you know, I'm going to put more into myself, and now, you know, you have people coming to you for, you know, advice and for treatments because you kind of put it all on yourself, right?
Yeah, and I think people pick who they go to based upon one, how they look, and how they present themselves personality wise. No one wants to go to somebody who looks like a blowfish anymore. And to be honest, like our industry has changed. You know, if you go back to the 2010 to 2015, probably to 2018, big lips were in. Everyone wanted them. Yeah. Now the way the industry is changing is that people just don't want that anymore, and they want to look younger. So people will say to me, I chose you because of the way that you look. And they're not telling me that like it's because I'm beautiful. They're telling me it's because you don't look overdone. You know, you don't look like crazy. You don't look like your lips aren't massive and falling off of your face. So that's a huge thing. But yeah, I mean, what you're saying is completely right. I think comparison is the thief of happiness. And I see it so much. You know, how many times does somebody pick up their phone and they say, I want to look like this? Right. You know, and I'm like, well, you're not them. You know? So
yeah. What do you say to somebody like that? Let's say, I don't have to get too personal, but when it comes to like a client coming in and say, I want to look like this, what's your rebuttal to that? How do you really respond to them when you say that?
I always say, I want you to look like you. You know, we're going to preserve you. I was like, you should never want to look like somebody else. We want to look like you, just a better version. Right. Or maybe like, you know, I always say we're just going to iron the sheets a little bit, you know, like we're just going to iron the sheets. Get the wrinkles out. Yeah. Like the sheets are good. You're high quality. You're like silk over here. Okay. But like, we're just going to iron them a little bit.
I love that. So, and honestly, like I said, that's very refreshing to hear. Cause like I said, as I'm a brother of a twin sister, and I just know, like I said, what goes on in the women's brain. So it's nice to, have women who think like that, right? And you're in a field that's very competitive. So in regards to the competitiveness of the industry, how do you make yourself stand out? What are some things about J-Spot that really stands out?
So I think like the multi-use space is a huge thing, like the cafe and juice bar within it. People come in curious, like they're confused. They're like, what's in the back? Is that like a secret place back there? Which is funny because as I was building this, a lot of people tried to get me to deviate from my initial plan. Because like building a cafe is a lot harder than you think. Like you go in and you're like, let's just get an espresso machine. We'll get a DeLonghi from Lowe's and call it a day. But there's a lot more that goes into it. And I think people doubted that I'd be able to do it. So they tried to get me to get away from that, but I think that's a differentiating factor.
Absolutely.
And I think multi-use spaces are the future. I think people want a place where they can go and do multiple things, feel a community. And again, community I think is also a differentiating factor for us. All the events we have. And then on top of it, like if you ever came in and you were in the behind the scenes, and I'm sure Kaylee can tell you, our marketing director can tell you this, I'm so type A. Like I am so type A to the point where they are lint rolling the couch when they walk in. There's never a scuff on the floor. We soft close the doors. The way we speak to patients on the phone. The way that we even bring patients back. We ask them, do you want something from the cafe? You get 15% off as a patient at the J Spot. So I think the level of hospitality that J Spot offers is different. People are spending a lot of money. A lot of money. And I think it's gotten lost in the med spa space because people want those services. So I think people are like, oh, like we don't have to give them like any hospitality. They're going to want Botox no matter what, you know? But at the end of the day, people are spending a lot of money. There's people that spend a month's rent in 45 minutes, right? So like to me, they should, if they wanted me to walk them in and roll out a red carpet, I would do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and so you mentioned, you know, Kaylee is your marketing director, and you know, having a team I feel like is so important. And like with a business like this that involves so many other people, what are some of your you said you're type A. I'm curious, asking you, what are some of your strengths as a leader of J Spot?
I think my strengths are creating my vision, maintaining my brand, and client relations. Okay. I think, are you gonna ask me my weaknesses next?
No.
Oh, well, I can tell you.
No, listen, I could, but listen, the reason why I asked that question specifically is because I'm doing, like I said, I'm doing a lot of reading recently, and like I've been finding like there's so much good stuff in these books that I've been reading, and like one of the things is that your words is your wand. So like talking about things that are negative puts 5 times more on you, right? So when you talk positively, you're just enforcing what's already good, right? Does that make sense?
That's a great way to live.
Because like I've just had, like I said, in the DJ industry, it's very toxic, it's very competitive, it's very heavy for people. And for me, it's like I try not to focus on that stuff anymore, because all it does is brings you down. I'm an abundance mindset person, so I love to find people's highlights. I like to, especially on a podcast like this, right, where it's like I find people's whys. I love to talk about like the strengths, right? So because people resonate with that stuff. Yeah, you know what I mean. So
yeah. And I think like this is my first leadership role, right? This is the first time I'm managing people. I think from September to now, I've gotten much better. Although I will say managing people is really hard.
Of course.
And I don't think you realize how hard it is until you do it. You know, like everyone will say that, oh, the hardest part's managing people. Like you said, and you're like, all right, whatever, I'll figure it out. But until you do it, I think it's way harder than people think it is.
For sure. And the one thing that I love that you said was that like you stuck with your vision, because that's really tough, especially like when you're starting something new. Like I just launched my Soleil boat party, and I already have people trying to tell me what to do. I'm like, just trust me, okay? Just trust me. And so when you mentioned that someone tried to get you to stray away from the cafe, what ultimately led you to just like going through with your vision? Like was like, because I understand like you're probably getting so many opinions, probably getting so many other outside factors. So what kind of helped you clear out the noise? Like how did you like yo, I'm doing this and I'm gonna do it right?
Well, I'm an overthinker, right? So in my head, I would go to bed at night and be like, okay, if I got rid of the cafe, would I be happy? And I would stay up all night. I mean, there were so many sleepless nights for me in this process. But I remember being like, if I fail as just the med spa, I would be so upset with myself versus if I failed with the cafe. And I always explain this to people where it's like, at least if I failed, I did it how I wanted to do it.
Facts.
Right? So like in my head, I was like, I'm going to put even how nice I made the J Spot. Like if you notice, there's like lime wash paint, there's white oak everywhere. I did epoxy floors. I found finishes that people were like, no one's going to notice this stuff. Like no one's going to
Right.
notice it. Like, why are you
Right.
doing this? And I did it because I was just like, again, if I fail, I did it exactly how I wanted to. And I can walk away feeling like, okay,
Right.
you know? But if I skip steps or I tried to like cut corners or I maybe like took what everyone was saying, I would never be able to forgive myself. You know, you have one chance to do this. Like
Right.
I always say it, like you have one chance to do it and you might fail and need to do it again. But
Right.
to me, I was like, I'm going to take this chance and I'm going to use it to the fullest.
Yeah.
So at least if I fail, I know I did everything that I could.
Yeah, as Frank
Yeah.
Sinatra says, he did it my way. Right?
Yeah,
I did it my way. But
You're bringing my North Jersey Italian out
that's
right
why
now.
I said it, right?
Yeah.
I also have an Italian question for you.
Yeah.
It's sauce or gravy?
Sauce.
Sauce.
Yeah.
Really?
So it's interesting. Like if you go to Italy, like they're not like gravy has meat. So like if there's meat in the sauce, like a braciole or something like that, sure you could call
Yeah.
it gravy. But like red sauce you put on pasta with nothing in it, that's sauce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was always told that gravy is when it's meats at the bottom of the pan, right?
Yeah, very
Right?
similar. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so funny. I just thought I would ask that question. I always liked the Italian
Is
question.
it hoagie or sub?
Hoagie for sure.
Oh, I say sub.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I guess the Philly in me is
Yeah.
hoagie. No, that's so funny. So, being from North Jersey, obviously big Italian family, right? Very strong cultural family. You know, do you have a good relationship with your family still? You still connect with them, or you know, is that what's that dynamic like? Reason why I ask is because like when you're always working, you're always it's really hard to make time for family. So
Yeah, I mean, has it been more difficult to see my family since the J spot? Absolutely. Luckily, my mom's been coming down to help a little bit.
Oh, that's amazing.
So it's been great to see her, and we're not too far from where my parents live. Like it's like 2 hours, so they definitely come down a bunch. But am I going home as much? No, and that does take a toll on me sometimes.
Right.
But I have a great relationship with my family. Like I'm really close with my parents. My brother's great. He actually has a whole like social media podcast thing.
Oh, that's awesome.
For sports, we're totally different people.
Yeah.
But no, and then, like to be honest, like my grandpa was actually a driving force of what made me take this risk. He was an entrepreneur himself. You know, Italians don't take a ton of risks in life. You know,
yeah.
even growing up, we didn't really travel that much. Like we weren't those people. Like my parents are my dad, he likes to be comfortable in what he's doing. Like risk is a lot for him,
Yeah.
you know? But my grandpa actually started a whole financial advising business, started by selling insurance door to door. Somebody told him to do financial advising, and then he was like super successful starting this career that basically like helped our whole family.
That's amazing.
So he kind of was a driving force, and he was so supportive. And
Yeah.
to this day, I always thank him for like giving me that kind of entrepreneurial,
Yeah.
I don't know, blood.
Yeah, of
So,
course. Yeah, of course.
yeah.
I mean, shout out to him. So what did he specifically instill in you that made you take that jump? Like, what were the conversations like? Like, what was some of the tips and advice he gave you?
Well, he's like 86 now, so some of his advice is a little interesting. Like
Right.
he'll always be like, "Don't stress," and I'm like, oh,
Thanks.
"Thanks so much." But you know, he said like, "Whatever you need, you're gonna do fine. You can't overthink things." Another thing that my parents and my grandparents always say to me is things are gonna go wrong every day.
Absolutely.
So that's something that I had to get better with. You have to be okay with things going wrong every day and not letting it ruin your day, and still waking up the next day in a good mood and being
absolutely.
positive. Because when you own a business, every single day there is going to be something that goes wrong.
Absolutely.
Some days worse than others,
Yeah,
obviously,
yeah.
but you know, when I first started this business, I was kind of like, when something went wrong, it would ruin my entire day. I would go home, I would like stay up all night thinking about it, I would overthink about
Yeah.
it, but you'll literally drive yourself insane. So I guess one big piece of advice is be okay with things going wrong. Things are going to happen. You know, you just got to keep moving and keep moving forward.
Absolutely. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah. It's so funny. Like I had a wedding yesterday, like, and like one of the things, like kind of one of the speeches like was done backwards, and I corrected it fast. And like, we are in the business, the entrepreneur, I like to use the word entrepreneur, right? So
Yeah.
like, cause we do different things, but we're the same. So like in the entrepreneurial business, the key isn't perfection, it's consistency. I always believe in that. Like things, like you said, things are gonna go wrong. It's just how do you adapt? I think the strongest people are the ones who like have the longevity and the ones that adapt. And so, you know, I'm really curious when it comes to like the med spa and stuff like that, when it comes to adapting and, staying consistent, what are some of the obstacles you've overcame when first starting your business? Because you mentioned like going home and, stressing yourself out. How did you overcome those obstacles? How did you get to where you're at now? We're like, all right, like I'm 6 months in and I have a lot of knowledge, and what are some of the things you picked up, and how did you really apply those?
I'm still working on it.
Mm-hmm. It's always a work in progress.
I honestly, I would be lying if I say I don't still stay up at night. My friends joke that I'm sending emails when we're out at bars still. I'm always working in some capacity.
Yep.
But now I'm trying to like get back into working out, giving myself workout, 2 days a week in the morning where I can't be on my phone. I need things that I can't be on my phone.
Are you a doom scroller?
I'm not a doom scroller, but I doom scroll about business stuff.
Right,
like I'm always in my email. I'm always like seeing what social media is doing, and then me and Kaylee are talking all the time. Like, oh, look what they're doing. Like, we should do this. Oh, this is a good idea. Let's try this.
Right.
I'll find like random things, and Kaylee will be like, "What is Jack gonna come up with today?" Like everyone jokes. Like we get a package, they're like, "What did Jack order?"
Right.
Because at every point in the day, I try to, like, my mind instinctively relates everything to the business. I could be sitting here and be like, oh, this camera, like,
what kind of camera
is this? Should we bring it to the J spot?
Yeah.
But, it's also made me realize a lot about myself, and I think it's making me a better person owning a business. It's taught me patience. It's taught me that people learn differently, have different personalities. People also like need affirmations differently.
Right.
They need criticism differently. Everyone needs to be criticized differently. Like criticism, I think is a great thing. I think it makes us stronger people, but to learn how to properly give it to employees and stuff, or even, friend, like it's teaching me how to like talk to friends, right?
Yeah.
That's been a learning curve for me.
Yeah, it's a tricky balance, because you're absolutely right. I'm big on feedback. I want to receive it. I want to give it. It's just like, I feel like it's important, because there's just like, if like for me, when I'm DJing, I always say like a lot of DJs are like, oh, like no requests, and I'm like, dude, bring them over here. I want to hear what they gotta say, right? Like if you got a banger that I might have forgot about, let me know. Like, you know what I mean? So when it comes to, I wanted to get into something else that you seem to love, which is travel. And so you've been going to London a lot. So what brought you, like, what made you go to London? Why that location? Because like obviously you kind of dropped that in the beginning. It's like not everyone goes to London every weekend. So.
Yeah. So I think like I said, we didn't travel a lot growing up. I mean, like the Bahamas, but like that doesn't. I'm talking like we didn't travel globally. Like I didn't experience Europe growing up. So I think like it was part of me, like almost like a rebelling type thing, where I was like, when I get some money, I am gonna like travel, right?
Yeah.
But I always loved British culture. I love British humor. I'm a very dry person. Like I'm not a bubbly person. I'm very sarcastic, like to the point where sometimes people are like, are you joking? Are you not joking? And I'm like, I'm joking. Like, how do you not get it? So like for me, I love British humor. So I ended up loving London, but I also love London because it's a very chic city, but it's also fun and has great restaurants. And it's very relatable in the aesthetic world. They have a whole street that is med spas in London. So I don't know. I just find it like a really cool place to go.
Yeah. Is there other places you go, or is that like your main?
So I've been to London a bunch. My best friend got married in Spain. And then I also went to see where my family was from in Italy a few years ago.
Where are they from?
They're from Puglia, this place called Bari, which is like in the southeast side of Italy. My favorite place I've ever been so far. And the reason why was because it was like my Italian heritage in one place. Like there was guys like smoking cigs and playing cards. And my grandpa and my dad always played cards growing up. That was a huge part of our culture. But it was also like not touristy. Like we ate in some grandma's like backyard. And to me, those are the best places. Like I think culture teaches you so much about yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was just in Punta Cana and Costa Rica, and like it was just so funny because I said I relate to you so much in regards to the entrepreneur things. I'm always thinking about work. I literally took a video call about like Barstool in Tortuga Island while I was on the island, and like, and my girl was like, Kev, like I was like, no, this is like serious, like I have to,
take this.
I have to.
Yeah.
So I took it, and like, but it's so funny because we go back to Costa Rica, go back to the normal island like Jocko, and it's like people just are so laid back. Like it was nothing crazy, right? It kind of like forces you to slow down, kind of take in the scenery a little bit. And I feel like that's so important, right? Like,
no, it is. And I think we get so caught up in this American lifestyle. Like I even think about it when I'm stressing about my business, and I'm like, why am I stressing? Like everything's okay, you know? Yeah. But that's just like the type A in me. But yes, when you go other places, like you see how people live. Like you think about the blue zones. We're stressing longevity medicine in America now, and even in my practice, and we're not living like healthy, non-stressful lives, you know? When you go to like the blue zones of the world, like Sardinia, right? Yeah. They're just walking and chilling. Like you're like, what is going on? You're not really exercising that hard. No one's doing these HIIT workouts that Americans are doing. They're just walking, drinking wine, eating fish, and just chilling.
It's relaxing, right? Yeah. It's like, it almost makes you think like, are we doing it wrong? Right? Yeah. Like I think about that a lot. Like obviously, you know, it's great the lives that we live, but like, yeah, like I'm there, like we're walking around. It's like a Monday because we stayed till Wednesday. I'm like, do people work? Are people? Yeah. Because you know they don't got fucking Zoom out there. So you know what I'm saying? Like it's not like that out there. So I'm like, it makes me curious. Like, what is the actual real way to like go about life? Like, because sometimes I think about the side of like, maybe if I didn't have these like pursuits or passions, that I feel like it's just kind of instilled in you, right? Like you're either born with it or you're not. Yeah. I'm always wondering like, if I was like that, what would my life be like? But then it's also the other side where it's like, it is nice to have something to chase constantly. Yeah. And so like my question to you is like, how do you balance like having that thing to chase and then also like turning it off?
Yeah. So, I mean, just to backtrack a little bit, you know, talking about blue zones, I did a lot of like studying prior to opening the J Spot about these areas where people live longer. And it kind of led to the design of the J Spot. I wanted it to be very tranquil. I wanted it to be a place that people come and they feel like they could breathe, right? They could stop from their normal life. When we do our facials, one of our estheticians, Shannon, actually came up with this where she says like, leave everything at the door, right? Like you are not, everything that happened outside of this room, we are not bringing in with us. We are just going to take a deep breath and relax. And to me, if I can make Philadelphia any healthier, that is a win for me, because I don't feel like Philadelphia is one of the healthiest cities. And I don't think we like enforce health, right? Like we're an eating and drinking city. Yeah. I mean, if you like it or not, that's what we are.
There's a new restaurant every single week coming up.
Yeah. So. Or there's a new bar, or there's a sports team playing and we can't escape it. Right. Right. Yeah. But in reference to your next question, I mean, the way I turn it off is really just trying to like hang out with my dog, walk, relax, and exercise. It's literally the only way that I can. And it has to be a way that forces me off my phone, not because I'm doom scrolling, but because I'll like just start working. Right. Yeah. And like at the end of the day, when you own a business, everyone's contacting you 24/7, right? So like if I'm not getting an email from one person, I'm getting an email from another person. And it's very hard for me if I have my phone to not answer, because I'm the type of person that wants things done like yesterday. Yeah, yeah. So that's how I operate. Like I'm like, oh, gotta. And then if like you'll watch me, like I'll have my phone and I'll be like, I'm not gonna answer that now. And then I put it down, and then I'm like, all right. And then like I put it down again, and then like I'm like, all right, now I'm gonna answer.
I actually want to shout you out because you haven't looked at your phone once this whole entire podcast.
I know. Right? I have to do podcasts to escape. Literally.
No, but make you a co-host. No, so yeah, it's so funny because like I am the same way too. Like I'm already booked out till like September, like for like just like every week type stuff. And I was like reaching out to this venue about doing my next Soleil party in September. And they're like, we don't even book till then. I'm like, it's April. Like, what are you talking about?
What do you mean
you'll book until September? Like, what are you talking about? So it's like, I'm planning I'm already booking 2028, 2029.
Yeah, like I'm ahead of it.
But so like, when it comes to, you know, the Jacqueline, right? Like who you are. What are some things you enjoy that are outside of work?
Well, travel is one. This year I have a few trips coming up that I'm really excited about. But they're forced trips because they're like weddings and stuff that I have to go to. Otherwise, I don't think I'd be traveling. Right. I love fashion. Whether I fashion loves me or not. You know, my credit card probably doesn't love it. But that makes me happy. Like I love studying new trends. I love like thinking outside the box, but that's like my creative side, right? Like I enjoy it. Like we have so much merch at J Spot because like I just needed my other creative outlet, right? And then like I love working out and seeing friends and family.
That's great. That's awesome. It's like it's so funny because you are a very complex person, but like that is a very simple enjoyment, right? Just seeing friends.
Oh, and I love going out to eat. Wait. We didn't even talk about this.
What?
So like I love going out to eat. Like I really enjoy it, but I enjoy it because I love the art of a restaurant. And it's funny because people are like, we have like famous chefs that come into the J Spot and I'm like, oh my God, did you see who's here? Like, I'm like, oh, that is so cool. And everyone's like, who is that? Yeah. Like, they're like, why do you know this person? Why are you fangirling over here? But that was another thing that I brought into the J Spot was I would study Michelin star restaurants.
Really?
And how they were run. And I watched every show possible, like every Netflix show, everything on Hulu about Michelin star restaurants. I've studied the Michelin Guide. I've gone to a lot of Michelin star restaurants. And when I'm there, I'm like taking notes.
Really?
Because I think the way the world is evolving, that anywhere people go, and even when you DJ, I'm sure it's the same thing, is people are always looking for an experience. They want an experience.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what keeps people coming back, right? So like when you go to a restaurant, the food could be good, but if this experience is horrible, like you're not going back. So I love going out to eat. It's a huge part of my life. And I know that sounds crazy to say.
No.
But I like it because I love the art of a restaurant and the time they put in and the curation of the dishes and making the dishes look pretty and how they're communicating with the clients or the customers. I just find it to be so interesting.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. That's so interesting. You study Michelin restaurants. I find that so interesting. It's like, you would never really expect that because I feel like if someone who's in like, usually you just study the field you're in, right? But like studying like a restaurant is...
I find it so respectable. I mean, like the amount of time these chefs put in to make a meal. Right. I mean, I'm thinking like, I'm like stressing about going home and like boiling water and making pasta. Like they are working all day and like sourcing ingredients and they're feeding people. Like they're sustaining people's lives. I don't know. To me, like it's one of the most underrated, under-admired industries because these people are like working.
Absolutely. There's such a... you even touched on this earlier, the small details, and that's like literally what a Michelin restaurant is. That kind of makes sense now why you focus on the, right? Yeah. There's not a crumb on the ground inside J Spot, right? Because it's like, you're like, no, like I'm making this like perfect. Right?
And when I watch them and I see the chefs yelling about things, it makes me feel less crazy because I'm like, somebody else has my crazy.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, they have my crazy. Like when they're complaining about like little minute details, I'm like, okay, I'm somewhat normal, maybe.
I can relate to these guys for sure. Yeah, you know what's so funny? I don't know if you know, his name's Dave Grutman, and he owns, he owns like Live, and he has like, he has this Groot Hospitality, right? So his whole thing is like building that relationship, and then building a relationship with clients, and like having like, exclusivity, and having a bit more like an upscale, elevated environment. I think like that's it is an underrated and underappreciated side of culture, right? Like how you mentioned, you want to be elevated, and like, even like the stuff that I'm like the Slaya party I'm doing is elevated, right? And even like these restaurants, these Michelin restaurants, I think the elevated experiences go really, like you said, under the radar. So, and so with all that being said, so you obviously have this J Spot now, right? And so you're working at a million miles a minute. Yep. So with this being said, what are some goals you have for yourself? Like, because obviously now you're dedicating everything to this business. Like, what are some goals you have for yourself, for the future? What is your definition of like fulfillment?
So, I mean, I think that's a loaded question. I think like I want to continue to raise the bar and continue this vision. One of the goals I actually set for myself is to preserve my vision. I think when you're building a business, it's a little chaotic. And if you're not monitoring people, you see them deviate, right, from your vision. So really preserving my vision is one of my goals. Eventually expanding, huge goal for me. And then continuing to make sure everyone's busy. All my providers are busy and happy, making it like a really fun workplace. And then continuing to do more events and bigger events. Like I think like the world is our oyster and we have a ton to offer. And, you know, it's funny now we get approached by companies to do events, and like originally it was us, you know, reaching out to people to do events. You know, I think Kaylee wants to kill me sometimes because like we have our event calendar is insane. But you know, it just makes our practice what it is. Like we created this brand, right?
Absolutely.
So you can't stop now.
Exactly. Yeah. Consistency is a good goal. Like I said, it is a loaded question, but I'm always curious because sometimes people have like different goals in that, right? But as you know, as entrepreneurs, we do just want to be consistent and continue to grow and evolve, you know? So, you know, the one thing that I appreciate about your vision and what you've been doing is you act with intention. And I think a lot of times, you kind of said before, like people can kind of take it into their own little world, right? They try to make it their own and morph it into their own. I think acting with intention is huge. And because some of the biggest brands in the world, they're the ones who, like, you may think some of these people are stubborn or assholes, but like they have their vision and they're sticking to it, right? Yeah. And I think when you have employees, like you have to remind them they signed up for your vision, right? Like when they signed up and became an employee for you, they signed up for your vision. If they want to take the risk and have all this on their shoulders, they can have their own vision, right? But like the person that took the risk is the entrepreneur, and whoever is signing up to work for that entrepreneur is signing up for that entrepreneur's vision. You know, after being an entrepreneur, I can say that I have so much more respect for entrepreneurs. Like I think it's way harder than people think it is, and it's a huge risk. I mean, you're like putting your life on the line essentially. Like I put every dollar I had into this business. Everything I own in my house is prior to starting a business. I always explain this to people. So I gave every dollar that I had into this. It's amazing. Business. And it's definitely paying off for sure. And I could definitely tell. We'll kind of end off on this, but I just wanted to make note of this one thing. So like, obviously there's people out there who want to take risks, right? There's like this one exercise, and it came across my Instagram because now Instagram is like catered to like what not even people you really follow anymore, but more so like what they suggest to you, right? Yeah. And I found this video, and it's this guy, and he was basically saying like, if you want to, he calls it like time travel, and it's the one thing that he always does is like, he says, close your eyes for 2 minutes, keep your eyes closed, and I want you to think deeply about yourself 10 years from now, not doing what you love and what you want to do. Think about where you're going to be. You know, whether, let's say, for example, you didn't work out and you're on the couch and you're sad and fat and lonely, right? Like he said, I want you to put yourself in the worst place possible 10 years from now, and sit there for 2 minutes and think about it. And then once 2 minutes hits, open your eyes and understand that you are not there. You are in the present right now. That's something that like, I feel like most people can learn, because not everyone is able to take the risk that you can, but you can start somewhere. And I found that so like eye-opening, because you get in this 2 minutes is like a long time for thought. You get in this deep thought of like, oh shit, I didn't do this. I never took this risk. I never did that. Now I'm sitting here all sad. Then you open your eyes and it's like waking up from a bad dream, right? Yeah. And I always encourage that. And so I'll ask one final question. And so when it comes to your entrepreneurship and your risk taking and obviously everything you learn in between, what are some things you could say to someone who is like, you know, I want to get into something that involves risk taking, and you know, I don't know where to start. Like, what would you say is a place for like somebody to start? Because obviously not everyone is, you know, as you know, able to have the job that you have, where you're maybe able to build some capital, get investors and all that whole jazz. But like, I'm curious as to like, where can somebody start? Yeah, so I actually had no investors. I did this all on my own. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Yeah, how rude. Oh no, I'm just joking. But what I will say is like, I did a ton of research. So if you want to build something
I would recommend making a dream board. Just take a PowerPoint, put pictures of what you want to create, put it on there, that makes it kind of real. Like that's where you're starting.
Yeah.
And then from there, think about how you're going to get your funds, right? So I went to probably 17 banks, got rejected by 16 banks, and then found one that believed in me, right? So like, you just have to take the no's and be like, okay, well, I'm going to get a yes, and you keep going, and then remind yourself that the worst that can happen is that you fail. And guess what? If you fail, you just get up and you try again. Like I always remind myself, like, it's okay if you fail, right? It's worse if you don't try.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So my biggest piece of advice, make a dream board, do your research, and take the risk. And the time is now. And the longer you wait, the harder it's going to get. So you might as well just rip the Band-Aid off. Yep. Because if you just sit and anticipate, and then somebody else does what you want to do, you'll never forgive yourself. So if you have a dream and you have something that you believe in, do it yesterday.
Love that. I love that. Well, I'm taking notes for sure, but I appreciate you so much for coming on the podcast.
Of course.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
It was great. I'm excited to have Run Club back at the J Spot. We'll definitely be back.
Come to the J Spot.
Yeah, exactly. So for people who are in Philly or maybe in outside markets, who knows? Where is J Spot located?
We're in Fittler Square at the corner of 22nd and Lombard. So it's technically 501 South 22nd Street.
Amazing. Well, make sure you guys check out the J Spot. Hope you guys enjoy this episode of the podcast. My name's Kev, and that is Jacqueline. Peace, guys. Peace.
Bye.
All right. That was so fun.
Oh, thank you so much.